Hello students. Once the story is set, the designs are done and models created, actually production can begin. This phase lead to start with modeling, texturing, lighting, rigging toward the closing end. If enough attention was given to pre-production, the project should meet deadline and budget milestones throughout its production. The layout. Since layout are based on their storyboard panel and closely based on their conceptual illustrations. 2D. 2D is two-dimensional XY. Hand-drawn background is used to lay out both the setting and character. The animation drawing stay within the parameters of the background, which is later painted. 3D. 3D is three-dimensional XYZ. A camera and stand-in model are set up in 3D space. Camera moves and loose motion are blocked out to establish strong composition for the animators. This step usually occurs during pre-visualization. Stop motion. Traditional animation is drawn one frame at a time. A stop motion puppet is moved in small increments and shot one frame at a time. Since the technique is bound to real-world physics, it is often necessary to digitally remove any rigging or wire that helps achieve character action that defines gravity, jumping, flying, etc. The animation. 2D classical. Once the character position is blocked out within the setting, keyframes, drawings are done. These are the main poses that establish the character's extreme points of action. Once those are timed out, in between are drawn to smooth out the motion. This sketchy animation is known as the pencil test. The rough animation lines are then cleaned up, inked, painted and combined with the background. The additions of effects animation like shadow and highlight can add considerable time to the process. Classical animation is known for its broad motions and 3D. Once the 3D character model has been rigged, an animator can create motions by manipulating it like a virtual puppet. 3D animation deal with technical concepts such as XYZ coordinate with numerical sliders to control the puppet. Key positions are automatically in between by the software. 3D animation is known as four-dimensional look and realistic quality. The modeling. Third point. The modeling 2D in animation, a characters-based poses are created and then dissected into several layer elements such as head, mouth, eye, arm, leg, etc. These elements must be designed the animation production process to overlap correctly when manipulated so that 2D artwork actually appears to have dimension. In 3D style, 3D modeling, if there are any 3D elements in the production, they must be modeled using a 3D software package. There are several ways to model. By assembling or modeling existing geometry into new shapes, by creating a wire framework, then a surface over it, or by scanning real-world sculptures with a 3D scanner. Next point, rigging. 2D, 3D, a character dissected elements, arm, leg, etc. needed to be set up like a puppet. For example, the foot is linked to the lower leg, which is linked to the upper leg, which is linked to the pelvis. These linked elements must then have their pivot points adjusted so they rotate at the correct port. In 3D way, once a character model exists, it needs bone and other rigging systems set up in order to manipulate it. It can be a very tricky and laborious job to make sure the 3D mesh bend and fold in a desired fashion. Other elements that may require rigging are muscles, hairs, clothes, and even eyes. Next point, texturing. 2D is usually a flat or gradient color, but limited animations can sometimes have complex textures that move along with the model. 3D digital models can have several textures loops. They can even have a graphic 2D look. Texturing can be anything from solid color to hand painted or photographic imagery. This imagery, known as a map, can be projected into the 3D model to simulate any surface imaginable. How light behave across that surface is also controlled through texturing as well. Next point, rendering. Rendering refers to the generation of digital frames by a computer. Even though most video media software requires some sort of rendering, this section refers specifically to the rendering of 3D animation. This stage can go quickly depending on how much calculations the computer must do to produce the final image. For heavier processing, there are entire buildings filled with computer known as render frames. It is not uncommon for a single frame of high definition 3D animation to take over a week to generate. Thank you.